that show, a songwriter from New Orleans named Paul Sanchez. That character messed me up. Still trying to get him out of my head. And John sang a theme song. And we got to be friends years ago but we were already almost 40 years old, and we were so surprised that we were both professional musicians who were fairly well known in New Orleans and hadn't met. It's a pretty small town, but he grew up in Tremay, I grew up in Irish Channel, two very different neighborhoods. He sang jazz and I sang rock and roll, two very different things in New Orleans especially. And he's black and I'm not, and that was a thing too. And we were comparing the differences and the similarities in our lives growing up black and white in New Orleans in the 60s. We were born 1 year apart and 1 day apart. We had both been raised as Catholics. We both failed as Catholics in dramatic fashion. We both were raised by a bunch of sisters. But there were differences too, like when we were little boys, we could not have ridden upon the same part of a city bus together because of segregation in the South. So we were talking about those differences and those similarities, and walking at the end of Canal Street where the cemeteries are, he pointed to one a couple blocks away. He said, "You know, baby, my father's buried there." I said, "Man, that's one more thing we got in common. My daddy's buried right across the street." He smiled at me, he said, "You know, baby, black or white, we all gonna meet at the foot of Canal Street." I said, "Well, that's a natural fact. Let's make that a song." And I want it to be something that could be played at somebody's second line funeral. Now, if you've only heard the term and you don't quite know what it means, I'll explain to you. When somebody dies in the African American community, family hires a brass band to play the body out of the church, all horns and drums. And they play out with a dirge. But when the body hits the street on the way to the repast, the band kicks it in high gear. Everybody starts dancing. Now, the first line is the family. They get to dance between the band and the casket because they paid for the band. Everybody else has to dance behind the casket, and that's the second line. And that's anybody who was in the church, but more importantly, anybody in their houses on the way to the repast who hears that music and wants to come out and dance you over to the glory land. It's not a sad moment in the funeral, it's a joyous one. They honestly believe you're already sitting at the right hand of Jesus, and we're left down here to dance our troubles away. So I tell you all this story here because when the HBO series Tremay came to town, episode 4 of season 1, they actually named it after this song. And they wrote and asked what the song was about, and I told them that story. And one of the creators wrote to me, Eric Overmeyer, said he cried when he read it. And John and I need to be in the episode with a brass band backing us. So I want y'all to sing along with me. The words are at the foot of Canal Street. And I'm going to give you 3 good reasons to sing along as we close out this lovely night that y'all gave me. The first reason is I just asked politely. Did I not? Nice about it. The second reason is, let's just say it's more fun to take part in life than just to watch it go by. Let's just say my friend Tom here was going to come down for Mardi Gras. And I said, okay, cool, meet me at this spot. I'll have a costume waiting, I'll have mimosas at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'll show you Mardi Gras. And he calls his wife Sue at the end of the day and he says, baby, it was great. Paul had costumes and mimosas, but I didn't wear the costume because I felt a little weird about that, but I had the mimosa and went out, and everybody was dressed up, and there was music, and it was so much fun. I love Mardi Gras. Or he puts on that costume and has that mimosa at 7 in the morning, and he calls Susan at the end of the day and he says, I am Mardi Gras. It's more fun to take part in life than it is to watch. That's another good reason to sing. But the main reason to sing is the reason I told you why John and I wrote it. We wrote it for our fathers, for the ones who came before who can't be here anymore. So for the person in your life who helped you be the lovely person who's been so attentive to me tonight, who can't sit next to you to sing along, you sing with me from the heart. And I promise you that's where they're going to live the rest of your life, right there in your heart, so they will hear you. And we walk out of the church, next time you see it in the film you'll know, in what is called walk time, where the band plays 3 beats and stops. So the guys carrying the casket, they take 3 steps and they pause, they go. Don't waste your time being angry when a moment's much better with a smile. And if you feel your time's been wasted here for a while. And I was standing at the bus stop, I was just across from Christ, was waiting for the driver to take me to my heavenly house. And I'll see you there at the foot of Canal Street. What will you wear at the foot of Canal Street? What will the band be playing at the foot of Canal Street? Will the people be saying at the foot of Canal Street? For the line there, does your mother pray? I wanna put on my golden crown at the foot of Canal Street. And when the levee banks have overflowed, when the streetcar has seen its day, when all is gone, the plantations, hallelujah, the Treme and the Vucare, you know I'll be swinging to that music. I'll be up on higher ground, where pipes is blowing, walk on, up with Gabriel, make his sacred sound. I'll see you there at the foot of Canal Street. What we wear at the foot of Canal Street. What will the band be playing at the foot of Canal Street? What will the people be singing at the foot of Canal Street? For the line there, does your mother pray? I wanna put on my golden crown at the foot of Canal Street. Y'all sing one more time. I'll see you there
at the foot of Canal Street.
What will you wear
at the foot of Canal Street?
What will the band be playing
at the foot of Canal Street?
Will the people be saying
at the foot of Canal Street?
Does your father, does your father, does your brother, does your mother lie there? I wanna put on my golden crown, I wanna lay my burden down. I'll be moving up to higher ground at the foot of Canal Street, at the foot of Canal Street. Thank y'all.